Welcome everyone to the DUC Migrating to Australia podcast. This is a massive episode for the Down Under Centre, and I guess for all listeners who are keen to head to the amazing state of South Australia. I'm actually joined by Sean Malone and Lisa Chambers. Now, Sean is the team leader of the Migration Attraction and Connection for South Australia Government. So, Sean, welcome, mate.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Now, we've already confirmed that you have a much better voice for podcasts than myself. Lisa was a pretty clear judge on that, but Lisa's probably a little bit biased. You guys going for the Port Adelaide, power, but also being big fans of living in South Australia.
I just want to, certainly a big fan of living in South Australia, but most definitely not a fan of Port Power myself.
Oh, that's right.
Lisa is, but I'm a Sydney Swans, living in South Australia, but Sydney Swans. So I can absolutely encourage anyone who's listening that if they're going to move here, that's the best option.
Yeah, I know. I strongly disagree, but you guys just have a look at the AFL, mate. Sean, the AFL is just awesome here. I know that Lisa's organised some tickets to see Port Adelaide play for our clients. It's a bit of a meetup. It's a big part of the lifestyle in Australia, isn't it? The AFL
certainly is. Sport. I know it's a bit stereotypical that Australia is very sports focused, but there's no doubt that sport is a really big part of culture. The culture here, it's a great way to network. It's a great way to meet people. There's unlimited opportunities to play all sorts of different sports, but AFL, Australian Rules Football, is certainly a massive part of the culture here. We play it all winter. It's the biggest game in town all through winter, no doubt about that. And it's for newly arrived people into South Australia, those who get into it, most become quite passionate about it once they understand. It takes a little bit of time to understand the game and know how it all works. But once you do that, most people, if they like sport, like that sport as well.
Yeah, it's an amazing sport. Now, Sean, we need to, I think this is a really interesting podcast for people. So, your South Australia government, you've been a part of South Australia government and your role, I guess just use your words and explain your role in the business.
Okay, so it is a South Australian government department. We are a team called Skilled and Business Migration. And then my role is I'm a team leader. I have some people that work in my team that I oversee. And essentially, it is called Migrant Attraction and Connection. So one part of our role is to engage with potential migrants, is to promote South Australia, is to engage with agents, is to engage with anyone that might help people identify if South Australia is a good option or not for them. And then also our other part of the role is it's about us developing systems and programs and ways that we can connect people once they have chosen to come here, once they have gone through the process to get here, and once they're here. How do we help connect them? How do we help connect them to community? How do we help, in particular, how do we help them connect with employers, with industry, with each other even maybe? And so they're, I guess, really two critical parts of our role is that attraction part and then the connection part once people have arrived here.
But you guys are also the part of the processing when people put in an expression of interest into South Australia.
Correct. So our team in Skilled and Business Migration, so I'm in that, I guess, engagement and connection team. The other part of our team is the assessors. So to apply for some visas as general skilled visas, where the applicant is coming with no employer sponsored, so they don't have a job here already. They're coming just based on their skills and experience. The general skilled visas, they apply usually through the state, and it's our job, it's our team's role is to identify those applicants that suit our needs, suit our priorities the best, and nominate them to the federal government that we want them to get a visa.
Yeah, that's perfect. And you this is the part that I'm really interested in because I feel Like I love migration, Sean. Like I think anyone who makes the move, and you actually were listening to our podcast and reached out, and we've done a bit of I guess a webinar, in the
Yep,
past as well. So we're sort of
yep,
building a really good connection, and I think we both feel the passion for migrants coming over, but also we understand how stressful the visa process is. And I've always sort of taken that line of like, this is hard. Like, it's such a hard journey for migrants. Anyone who's done it before will agree it's the hardest part of the process. The last couple of years, Sean, it's just been, since the pandemic, it's just been horrible for migrants on a skilled visa. And we know, because when we chat about this, I guess not on a live podcast, I guess, is that your frustration too, because you've got these, South Australia as a government have these massive plans to build up South
mm,
Australia. And one of the issues that you've got is you need migrants coming in. There's a pathway there, and you are a huge part of the pathway by giving the invites. But then sometimes we feel that then once someone gets an invite, there's quite a delay in visas getting granted. We spoke in the webinar the other week regarding immigration cutting the nominations by 75% for the financial year, the current year we're in now. So come July, we're going to start the new financial year. Any news, any gossip, anything that, have you guys spoken to immigration? Can you offer any insight on that?
so the first thing, any gossip or any leaks, normally government departments and big organisations, leaks and gossip is pretty frequent. But I can absolutely say there's no leaks and no gossips about next year's number. We have literally no idea. We don't know. That is up to the federal government, and whether they've come to a final decision or not yet, I'm not sure, because we don't know. We're not getting any heads up. The other part of it is we advocate, as I know every other state would be. We are advocating for whether it's increases as well as increased or a better processing times through the federal channels, Department of Home Affairs channels. We are actively advocating for that. I know at the moment we're particularly advocating and speaking with our federal colleagues around particularly the processing times for the highest priority occupations, the ones that are critical need for the state, is trying to get them moving through the system a bit quicker. So we're certainly advocating for that. We are pushing for that. There's reasons that the federal government, it's not as simple as just doing it better or doing it quicker for the federal government. They've got a whole range of issues they're dealing with. What I would say, and probably going through an agent without, I can't say to potential migrants whether to go through an agent or not. That's their decision. But one of the things that slows processes down for a lot of people that we are told by the Department of Home Affairs is the biggest reason for slowing applications down, often not when someone is engaging a migration agent, is that either they don't put all the documents through with their application, or some of the information on the application is incorrect. And what happens then, it might take weeks for the federal government, Department of Home Affairs, to get to that. Then they see that it needs changes, or it needs some documents added, or whatever it is. They'll get back to the applicant. The applicant's then got 28 days to respond. And then it takes Department of Home Affairs, they'll wait that 28 days. Then it takes them more time to get back to it. Already you've blown it out by months. So so Department of Home Affairs keep reinforcing that motto they go by is check twice, submit once. Now, I know that's what, in most cases, you guys and other agents who process it, that's a big part of your role.
Yep.
But that is a significant issue for people who are applying, is that if there's any issues, it delays it significantly.
Okay. let's just as an example, right? I'm going to try and get my head around this. So, what would you
Hmm.
say is a really big project that SA are looking to bring in at the moment for the state?
So our biggest, so medical, anyone involved with medical is always a really high priority.
So,
Nurses, doctors, physiotherapists, anyone with medical. We can't, the state, just like most parts of the world, almost can't get enough really suitably qualified and experienced medical professionals. But the other one, and that's been a high priority for South Australia for a few years now. But the other, the industry that has been identified as a really critical need now for us as a state for a variety of reasons is construction and trade workers. And that can be everything from actual electricians, sparkies who do the wiring and things, to plumbers, to bricklayers, to whoever it is. Can also be construction project managers, construction engineer, any engineers involved in construction work, that sort of thing. And a big part of that is the growth of South Australia and what we have not got planned for the next few years, but what is locked in and is happening. You got to remember, South Australia is Adelaide is a capital city of about 1.3 million people, and a state of almost 2 million. So we're really central in big numbers, for us, big numbers in capital city and its big footprint. So the footprint of Adelaide's big, but the population's around 1.3 million people. We have got, in the next year or so, the construction of the Women's and Children's Hospital being relocated from North Adelaide right into the centre of the city. That is a big project. That is multiple billions of dollars. That's going to need hundreds of workers. We have up in Whyalla, about 5 hours drive north of the city, they are building a hydrogen hub and a massive desalination plant. We also have a massive roadworks on South Road, Torrens to Darlington project, where we are tunnelling, building big tunnels on a major thoroughfare. They're three of the big projects, plus the AUKUS. Those people in the UK may be aware of the Australian, United Kingdom, US defence deal and the submarine build, and a lot of the build around that is happening in Adelaide. So we not only need migrants with that building construction background for those projects, but also locals who are already here. They're going to get drawn to those projects, creating a massive vacuum behind them, with where we need construction people. We have a housing shortage like so many other places do. So there's the critical need that's has come not from nowhere, but has risen really sharply in the last 6 months is construction and trades.
It's exactly what happened when WA had the boom with the mines, Sean. They
Yep.
took lots of the
Yep.
the local workers and all that out there and stuck them in the mines, and then we needed lots of tradies out and about.
Yep.
See, it's so frustrating because I got tradies coming out my ears, putting in nominations and waiting for visas, and I just feel like going into those meetings with immigration saying, "Hey, look, we can build it. We've got them here.
Yep.
Invite them."
Yep.
So
Yep.
you identify as a government, you'll say, "Okay, well, we need to build, all the areas you just mentioned them." And then you go into immigration and you go into a meeting with immigration. And then how do you word that? Like, how do you put that forward to immigration to say, hey,
Yep.
without these skilled migrants, we can't build it? And where does it stop? Do they just say, like, if I was to have a conversation with you and say, all right, Sean, we've got you've just mentioned all these projects. We've got, heaps of guys who've done their skills assessments waiting for invites or visas, whatever. Can we have a chat? I assume you'd be doing something with immigration, but where does it stop for you? Do they just say, "Oh, we'll get back to you," and then you wait like months, or is it like in a big? I don't know. Is it in a government house? How does it work?
So we've got a policy team in the state government that deals with migration, and also some senior people, directors, even up to the CE of our organisation. So they have regular meetings with Department of Home Affairs. So for the people in the UK, that we've got three levels of government in Australia: the local, the state, and the federal. The federal government, the Department of Home Affairs, is the department that make all decisions on visas. They say yes or no for every visa. So we have, our policy team have regular meetings, and then our senior people, even up to ministerial level, have regular meetings with their federal colleagues, and we use data, we use all sorts of things, and we present to them. We are doing it right now. We present to them about South Australia's needs, South Australia's requirements. I think you'll find, I haven't been involved with it. I'm a in marketing and not marketing, but engagement and communication type person.
Yep.
I'm not involved with the briefing and things, but it even, as far as I'm aware, goes to a premier level here to engage with his federal colleagues around South Australia's needs, South Australia's requirements, how critical it is that what numbers we get, who we're looking for, and how quick the process needs to be for us to get these critical people in. So that happens regularly.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Sean, but it's fair to say that you're basically putting in your own expression of interest to immigration.
Yeah, as every state does.
Yeah, that's
so they're engaging with every state, and every state would be telling the federal government how urgent their numbers are, how urgent their projects are, what their priorities are, all of that, and then the federal government go away and they have to determine as a nation what's in the nation's best interest and what they can do for each state. Now, I can't comment on their processes or their decisions because that's a federal government and I'm only state. But we as a state, we're certainly advocating as hard as we can to get the critical needs covered for our state. Now, whether we do or not, we'll see when if we're successful. Look, every state will probably say when the numbers come out that we probably didn't get as many as we wanted. That's probably where everyone will sit in the end. But we're hopeful that our lobbying and our really I guess full on advocating for South Australia and its needs will be successful.
Yeah, good on you, man. Well explained. I really appreciate that, and it's nice to think that you sort of. Like again, we speak a lot about it. We are on the migrant side, and that's what we want to get. We know that they're just going to benefit. I love the idea: skilled English-speaking, skilled migrants, people with qualifications arriving into a country that's needing for them, and these people have worked so hard to get there, spent lots of money in the process. And we when we do the podcast, we always hear about the emotional side of it. So that's why I thought this would be a great one to sort of get your your idea from it. Now, you mentioned at the start, Sean. You guys, are in a team that would actually decide who would get an invite, and that what would be something that at the moment that South Australia government would be looking for when people are putting EOIs in? What criteria?
Okay. Certainly. English is really. Excuse me. Sorry. Certainly, English levels. The scoring as high as you can in the English test is always really useful, and work experience, valid work experience, and the more the better almost, in your field is also really critical. That's because what we're looking for in a skilled migrant is South Australia is, we're the same as everywhere else. We want the best. The best people we can get to South Australia that are going to benefit our state as quickly as possible. We want to nominate, we want to invite, we want to get skilled migrants that are going to come to South Australia and can contribute to the state's economy as quickly as possible and as much as possible. The last thing we want, and the thing that I guess is the most distressing, is when skilled migrants come to the state and they're unable to find work, or they're unable to find work at their level. That's not what we want, and we don't want it for the state, but we also don't want it for those skilled migrants. Yeah, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Of course.
So we try and look at those people that are that have valid work experience, that have the real qualifications and the need that the skills that South Australia need, but match that with, I guess, English and as good in English as possible. Doesn't mean English has to be your first language by any means. We're clear on that you don't have to be English first language, but as good as possible, as high as you can get in that test you do, and just because. So if we go through the highest priority areas, we're talking about construction and trade. the industry, the marketplace tell us that English, as good an English as possible, is critical for occ health and safety.
Yeah.
So work health and safety in Australia, as it is in most parts of the world, but in South Australia, work health and safety is number one priority. There is signs, there is procedures, there is books, there is rules that people have to understand and follow. It's really important. That's not just high-rise building constructions. That's every type of construction work. So and working on site. So it's important that you've got an English level good enough to understand that work health and safety. If you then go to medical, or another a really high priority for the state is education. If you look on our system, in the criteria, English levels for teaching is really high. It's higher than most other occupations. It's even higher than a lot of medical. So the teaching industry in South Australia has identified that as high a possible English level is incredibly important to teach people in South Australia. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out why, but English levels at a high level in that testing is important. So my advice would be to people is to get as much work experience as you can in the field that you're going to apply for to come, to be able to clearly illustrate that when you come here, you're already experienced, you already clearly understand the role, you already clearly understand the skills that you need to do, and that you're going to be able to hit the ground running here in South Australia as much as possible.
Yeah, and then be able to deliver the English. They're awesome tips, listeners, at what Sean's just mentioned. It's again, mate, it's so good. Like, it makes sense. You want the person to settle. Yep. You want them to be an assistance to your program and get work and
it's not just economics here. We want them to be able to come and settle in the state and be part of a community and be able to learn, who their community is. Yeah, that's right. And
be able to contribute, and then they have a chance rather than getting there and not being able to have a chance.
Correct.
So there's so much thought process that goes in there. So it's not as simple as, you got 65 points, positive skills assessment, bang, we'll give you an invite. It's like, okay, let's establish, are they going to
It's a competitive, we get more applications than we can nominate. Yep. So it's as simple as that. It's a competitive process. There's no other way to look at it, I don't think. It doesn't mean you have to, you're not, I guess, directly competing against them, but you are, in a way, indirectly competing against everyone else that applies.
Yep.
It's like a job interview. It's like any sort of process. You not only have to show your skills, you have to show that why the state should nominate you. Why should we? What is it that you're going to bring that puts you above other applicants? And I think that's a really critical thing that people need to be thinking about.
As an Aussie, Sean, I value that. I just get peed off a little bit of how long the process takes for some of our, mainly for my clients, obviously. But that's not, I'm not here to talk about that. That's not your, obviously you're concerned about it.
No.
You personally, it's a federal government issue. But I really appreciate the way that you worded everything then, because it makes sense. I'm sure the listeners can really get a good understanding there. Let's get that superior English. Let's try backdate as much work experience as we can to show SA Gov, and let's be as efficient, because it is competitive. We've got so many clients wanting to head to South Australia. So let's talk a bit about yourself, mate. You're passionate about this, and I know you are. How did you end up getting in this role with South Australia Government?
So I have been in this team for about 2.5 years. I have worked in government, in the South Australian government, for approximately 12 or 13 years. So you lose track. The older you get, you start losing track easier, I think.
Yep.
Variety of different roles, but a lot of my background, believe it or not, I for a long time I wasn't in government. I was in, I know you're correct me if I'm wrong, you're actually a plumber by trade, Wes?
Yeah, not the best plumber, mate. Retired now, but yeah, one of the best that went around, mate. Don't worry about that. At least when I was around.
So I was involved. So I'm not a plumber by trade, but I was involved in the plumbing industry. So worked for plumbing supplies firms and did some sales repping jobs and that sort of thing. Then got into more training and then apprenticeships and traineeships. So a lot of my background leading up to this role was in workforce development, but around either sort of apprenticeships and traineeship sector, and also working with people who perhaps haven't been employed for a significant amount of time or have barriers to employment, that sort of thing. So managing and working in programs around that. So this was kind of almost not a next step, but just a continuation of that type of work. And then I got into this mainly through that sort of skills, but also that engagement skills. I was born and bred in South Australia, long time ago. It doesn't seem that long ago, but when you talk, it is, in 2000. So when everyone here in Australia was barracking for Cathy Freeman at the Sydney Olympics, I was actually living in the UK. So I lived over there for a year, lived down in Canterbury, in Kent. Spent the year there, worked in Whitstable, just up the road from Canterbury on the coast. Just worked in an organisation. Actually, they're still going. I think they're still really strong. Hillbilly Golf Trolleys. Anyone in the UK who plays golf with a Hillbilly Golf Trolley,
Great name.
It's a great name and it's a great little golf trolley. I doubt whether, I mean, we're talking 24 years ago now, aren't we? Which is horrible to say. Although I wouldn't be surprised if some of those are still going that I had anything to do with, but I didn't build them. But I ended up being involved with a few different roles and had a great year. Loved it. Fantastic year in the UK, but then have been back in Australia since for the last sort of 24 years. So born and bred in Adelaide and lived in the Barossa Valley for a significant amount of time, but am now sort of living back in Adelaide on the beach, or near the beach.
Nice. Living on the beach, mate. Living in a tent there.
Yeah. Not on the beach.
Not on the beach. There we go. Hey, great. Let's do some quick questions, mate. Quick fire answers. All right. Your best part about living in South Australia? What do you think? Yeah, actually, I'll change it. What do you think for a migrant would make South Australia a good option?
So lifestyle is pretty good. It is good, but it's not. You don't move to a state. You don't uproot everything just from lifestyle. But lifestyle is a really big factor. There is lots of opportunities here for employment. It is a really diverse community, but also I think a big factor in it is it's 1.3 million people in a city. We feel like a reasonable sized city. I know people in Melbourne and Sydney laugh about that, but it feels like a reasonable sized city. But it also has some benefits of being a smaller city, and I think that's actually pretty attractive for people. For a lot of people, it has all the benefits. We are close to the ocean. We have a really thriving bar restaurant scene. We have about 7 wine regions in close proximity to Adelaide. We have the Adelaide Hills. We have great fishing. We are a 50-minute flight from Melbourne. We are an hour and a half flight or whatever it is from Sydney. So we are close to a lot of the critical, really great parts of Australia, but it's actually a great little community to live in with lots of opportunities and options for work and employment.
Awesome. Lisa, we're going to bring you into the room as well. What I might do, guys, is I really want to focus on a bit about SA. And now I know Lisa always goes on about it. In one of the podcasts, Sean, she actually mentioned how many shark sightings they were. And I remember seeing on a Facebook group, actually, I listened to a podcast. I didn't realize how many sharks there were in South Australia. And I was like, Lisa, don't say that. We don't mention the shark word. But Lisa, are you with us?
I am. Hi, guys.
Let's do a little game, guys. Let's do a little bit of a, Lisa, we all know your background, okay? You're from the UK. You've actually, firstly, congratulations. Here's a fun fact for you, Sean. We are not the only 2 Aussies in the room as of today. Our Lisa went and became a citizen just 2 days ago. Is that correct, Lisa?
How good is that?
We did. How cool.
Yeah, cool.
Congratulations.
We're going to talk about that in the next podcast, actually.
Yeah.
We might interview her partner and just see how the ceremony went. So, all right, let's talk about it, guys. Ready, set, go. Best beach in South Australia. Fire away, Lisa.
Port Noarlunga.
Sean?
Seacliff and Brighton.
Oh, best pub.
There's a few.
I quite like the McLaren Vale Hotel.
There's a couple. I know people. I know you want short fire answers. I'll make it as short as possible. There's a couple of pubs. One thing, the only thing, well, not the only thing, but one of the key things I missed from living in the UK was English pubs. They are the beautiful little village, little quaint little pubs. They're fantastic. You can find some of them. Things like the Fox and Firkin at Tea Tree Gully is outstanding. Mick O'Shea's, yep. I'm one of my favourite pubs is the Greenock Hotel in the Barossa Valley.
Best place to holiday. So you're in South Australia. You want a holiday in South Australia. Best place to holiday.
Probably Moonta.
Yep, York Peninsula potentially. Yep. The other option would be, if you want that more outback, is Flinders Ranges. A friend of mine just went up there. They spent 10 days there. They loved every second of it. You can do everything from 5-star resort to real bush camping. So there's all options. So that I would say that's up there as well. So
it's Friday night, Lisa. You've worked for the greatest company on earth. You then decide to start the weekend. What does a weekend look like for a hardworking lady with a husband and 2 children? What do you do in South Australia?
Okay. It depends on the season. All right. So in summer, it's definitely the beach. Go to the beach, grab a takeaway on the way down, like pizza or something like that. Go and meet some friends, have some beer on the beach, quite a chilled evening kind of thing. If the football's on, get the train, which is free, to the Adelaide Oval and go and watch the football. If it's winter, then it's definitely the city. So a good thing to do on a Friday night is go to the Adelaide Central Market. Go there. That's got Chinatown right next to it as well, where you can get some good Chinese food and go around the market, and it's got quite a good vibe on a Friday night. Or just, go to a pub restaurant in the city. And
Sean, with what Lisa's talking about then, I've been told that South Australia is very good if you want to get into the city. It's actually quite easy no matter where you are, because you've got the city, then you've got nice open fields and everything like that. Mm-hmm. Is that true, mate? It's easy to get out and about in SA?
It is, unless you want to get into the city at peak hour on a Tuesday or Wednesday morning, then it's like any city. I say that because I was slow to get in this morning. But it is easy to get in and out. The other thing I would add to what Lisa said, and I concur with everything that Lisa said, I think the wine regions, which are so close, or some of them are so close to the city, things like McLaren Vale, Adelaide Hills is its own wine region in itself now, which is magnificent. Barossa Valley, they're within an hour. They're all within an hour. So in summer, it's nice to get to those regions. But in winter, in particular, a lot of the cellar doors are set up really well for winter. They'll have a big open fire going. You can go out to lots of these regions. They make really good red wine. There's nothing better than bit of a cold, wintry day to sort of jump in the car and 40 minutes later you're in McLaren Vale, or 45 minutes later you're in the Barossa Valley and eating in one of the restaurants there or the bakeries there or whatever, and just getting around to 3 or 4 of the wineries. It's just we are really lucky here. We are really lucky. We made a comment. It was in summer. We made a comment. We had a swim middle of summer. It was magnificent. We had a swim down at Brighton, myself and my partner. In summer, we had a swim, and 40 minutes later, I think it was about an hour later, we were sitting up in the hills at a wine bar, drinking a really nice white under the shade of a tree, and it's just magnificent. That's what we were saying. We are really lucky because things are so close. You can just mix it up on a weekend day.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing, mate. Also sounds like you might have been late today because of a winery dinner last night. Never know.
But, I wish. I was over on Kangaroo Island, which is also another great spot for a holiday, yeah. I was on Kangaroo Island till yesterday, so I was a bit tired from flying that 30-minute flight.
What is Kangaroo Island for the listeners, mate?
So it is literally just off the coast of the bottom of South Australia. It's a big island. It's called Kangaroo Island, but it's probably best known for koalas. It is also, there's places on it like Seal Bay where you can actually walk on the beach with the seals. There's a ferry that goes across multiple times a day. It's a good place. Just again, in winter it is quite cold. It is from the bottom point of the southern part of Kangaroo Island to, Antarctica or whatever. There's nothing in between, so it's except quite a lot of distance, but it's quite cold. But in summer, it's really quite a pleasant place. Lots of international visitors go there. You see a lot of Australian animals, native animals that you wouldn't see unless you head north. So you'll see kangaroos, koalas in the wild, emus, whatever in the wild. But it's a bit rugged and it's quite beautiful as well.
See, I picture a storybook, right? I have to visualize this, listeners. But if, like, I don't know, the kangaroos, the koalas, and all that, building a raft at night and heading into the mainland and coming back to the island, getting all that stuff.
There's enough koalas to do it. There's koalas everywhere there. It's also just recovering. I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years ago, time gets away from it. Had a significant bushfire there, which is a part of life in regional South Australia occasionally.
Yep.
It had a significant bushfire there. No, I don't think anyone died, but significant amount of trees and fauna and unfortunately quite a few animals died, but it's really recovering from that. Of course, I was there yesterday for a day or two. It's all bouncing back from that there. They've got a little distillery there. They've got a brewery there. It's only a small place with a small population, but it's got a lot of international visitors that go there.
All right. Well, guys, Sean, let's have a bit of a recap, okay? So you've got lots of projects coming up. We've spoken about lots in construction. Obviously, there's a big shortage in the healthcare. You mentioned teaching is also a bit of a priority for South Australia at the moment. They want to have higher English for obvious reasons, and they're going to start pushing them through. You're very passionate about the state as a whole. Movement, you're feeling that South Australia is about to get some good times when it comes to the opportunities for employment and everything like that. So if someone's sitting there thinking, you read the papers and think, oh, Australia might go into a recession, and I'm not saying they are, obviously, but these are things that come up on social media and all that. SA as a whole, is it a place where migrants should feel safe to come into, and there's going to be lots of work for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, it's hard to guarantee that, but I think it was you, Lisa, I was talking to the other day, and you made a comment that South Australia recorded, was it last month? South Australia recorded the lowest unemployment rate in Australia for the first time in a long, long time. Was that you?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yep. So for a few years there, South Australia had the highest unemployment. We currently have the lowest unemployment. Now, I'm not an economist. I don't know what the future holds, but currently we have the lowest unemployment rate in Australia. We have these large projects planned, not planned. They're actually they're happening. They're about to happen. You often hear of places say there's projects being planned, and that these are signed off. They are ready to go. The Women's and Children's Hospital is currently situated in North Adelaide, right next to Adelaide, but it is being built right next to the Royal Adelaide Hospital that was just finished a couple of years ago. So there's going to be this massive hospital precinct right on the edge of the city. This is all happening. So currently, South Australia's economic outlook is really positive, and it's quite I think you can comment here, Lisa. I'm probably pretty biased, I guess, working for the state government, but it's looking very buoyant and pretty positive.
Yeah, for sure.
It's weird. It's a hidden. Everyone who goes to SA loves it, absolutely loves it. And on all the chat forums for migrants and all that, you'll see them. They're like, don't tell. They're going to get cross now because I'm telling, hosting this one about SA. But yeah, it seems to be like that little, once you're there, you sort of, you do enjoy it, unless you're Gemma Teal, of course, who then left SA to move to WA, one of our other podcasts.
I think it's like what Sean said a bit earlier on. It's so easy like life is so easy, but you just have everything that you could possibly need. You got the
Yeah.
beaches and the wineries and the city and the restaurants and stuff, but
It's well laid out, isn't it?
it's very well
It
laid
is.
out. And I went to Perth last week and I loved Perth. It's a lovely place. It feels like a bigger Adelaide and just harder to get around. That's how it felt to me. And I was quite relieved to come back, and it was just very easy to just
So
live.
Adelaide's a very planned city. So our history is, of course, white, like the white population in Australia. Obviously, we had our Indigenous population here for tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years prior to the convict sort of settlement. But the eastern states, Victoria, New South Wales, I think Queensland, certainly Tasmania, were convict settlements. Adelaide was a planned settlement, so Adelaide was actually drawn out. So it's the actual CBD of Adelaide is drawn out in a grid, so it's very structured, it's very planned. So the city was built for migration from England. And obviously it's grown significantly, but it was actually a planned city. So the actual CBD is the cities like I love Melbourne. I love Melbourne. I love London. I love a lot of big cities, but they're often a bit chaotic. There's little streets, there's big wide streets, there's laneways, it's actually, because you can see it wasn't planned to be like this, and it's grown and grown, and it's changed as it's grown and got harder. Whereas Adelaide as a CBD was built like it is now. Obviously it's gone up, but it was actually built and planned as you see it now.
Tell you what, mate, I'd hate to be debating what's a better state, Victoria or South Australia with you. You are very passionate about SA.
Now, I like a lot of states in Australia. I'm passionate about South Australia, but I'm also pretty passionate about Australia.
Oh, it's a wonderful country.
Surrounded by parkland, isn't it, Sean? Which means that it can't really grow outwards, just upwards.
Which was also part of the original plan by Colonel William Light,
All right. Well, guys, let's finish off. Sean, what is the best advice you would give to anyone living overseas who wants to come to South Australia?
Yep. So do your research. I met with a couple who actually were successful in coming across to Australia from Argentina. I met with them yesterday. I was talking to them yesterday. So they said they essentially made it a plan. They planned 2 years out from coming, that they started their preparation. So they started collating all the information they need. They made sure they had the work experience. They really planned and put a structure together, understanding the time that it might take 12 months to get approved. It might not, but it might. So they had a plan based around that. Understand the system and particularly the skilled occupation list. So while our priority is construction and trade, it's medical, it's teaching, it's engineering, and it's ICT, there are other occupations that we will accept and we're looking for. So it's not just those 4 or 5 industries. It doesn't have to be those, but they are probably the critical need. But also register with the South Australian, www.migration.sa.gov.au. Register with that and keep on top, because things change. The federal government may change visas, or the federal government may change processing times, or the South Australian government might change what our priorities are or what we're looking for. Currently, work experience is really critical. We might identify there's something else we're looking for, and we will put it on our website. So register with our website and keep updated with it. We'll also do webinars and we'll send out information on our website. So that's useful as well. But just say keep in top. But unfortunately, really, I guess, plan and strategize how you're going to approach doing this, and probably understand that it is going to be longer and a bit more frustrating than perhaps you hoped for.
Yep.
We wish it wasn't. We would hope it isn't, but probably plan that it's going to be.
Yeah, well said, mate. And just to reflect on that as well, just to plug a bit of the DUC with that, I mean, part of our service, Sean, is when someone does get an invitation to apply to your wonderful state or any of the amazing states of Australia, that I'll get a free relocation call with a relocation agent that can assist them planning that. That's what it's about. If you've got kids coming over or whatever, there's so much you've got to think about. We've got a really good website. Our relocation hub will help that as well. But Sean, look, mate, and Lisa, obviously, look, I just want to thank you both for taking the time on a Wednesday morning to create this podcast. I think it's been very good, Sean. You speak really well. And again, thank you for you and the government for allowing this this podcast to happen. Guys, tune into the next podcast. Hope your dreams come true. And cheers again, Sean and Lisa. Thanks, guys.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.